Hello everyone, welcome to a very special 1cc commentary where you not only have myself on the mic, but you are joined by the game's very developer, Boghog. Welcome to the show.
Hello, it's nice to be back. I'm reacting to myself and you playing video games.
Yeah, this is the closest you can kind of get to like a person versus person interaction in shmups, where it's me versus you and you made the game, you know? So
Exactly,
that's what competitive shmups looks like, everyone. You make a game and then people play it and then you taunt them as they stream. That's the
then I
way
show
to
up
do
in
it.
chat and I show up in chat. I'm like, oh, you getting the 1cc yet?
Yes, and for those not familiar, Gunvein is a bullet hell shmup made by Boghog himself. It came out a little while ago, and I had a really fun time when it came out doing the review and doing the intense mode clear. But over the past few months, I've been feeling a little bit guilty and feeling like, okay, I got to go all the way here and get the expert mode clear. And I will say, of all the kind of more high-tier difficult clears that I've done, I had a lot of fun doing Gunvein. It was one of the more enjoyable 1cc's. So if you have the intense mode, I highly recommend continuing onward for the expert mode clear. One other note that makes Gunvein's expert mode a lot of fun is that there's a lot of meta to how you approach clears in different games. Like, for example, in my Touhou and Dodonpachi, there's a real meta of building up resources and holding resources because you need them for hibachi.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all about perfecting everything up to hibachi and not using any resources because you need them for the big guy. But the thing, and then Garegga is a little bit different because of the rank. You have to learn to route the rank and kind of play this push and pull game with the rank where you can't stock up with stuff too early, otherwise the rank will get too high and obliterate you at the end. So you're always doing this sort of specialized rank management. Gunvein is very interesting because it's kind of a blend between the two where there isn't rank, but there are caps to how much stuff you can stock up. And you also
playing
can...
the Switch version.
The Switch version has no cap?
It does have rank. No, it has rank.
Oh, it has rank. Well, I'm not playing the Switch version. Who do you think I am?
Yeah, there we go.
Anyway, what I was getting at is that there's this fun push and pull with Gunvein as well, because since the resources are capped, what ends up happening is you're never really out of it. Like in Dodonpachi, if you die too much early on or use too many resources early on, you're just done because hibachi's going to obliterate you. You need those. But you can't like stockpile it like a lot of other shmups where you stockpile everything early on and then the end game is actually not so bad because you have so many resources to play with. Because of this resource stock, Gunvein is a really fun expert clear because every run, you can never be fully confident about it because as soon as you think, oh, I've got this unlocked, I'm in stage 4, I've got max lives, I got max bombs, in about 4 seconds you could lose everything and be destroyed. But what's also cool is you're never out of it either because you could come into stage 5 with basically nothing. And if you play well and solidly, it is still possible. It's not super likely, but it's still possible to get the clear. So yeah, I've had a ton of fun and I highly recommend if you guys are looking for a first 1cc to go for, Intense is great. And then if you're looking for something beyond a more normal 1cc, Expert is right there waiting for you. So I hope that sets up the run. Anything else you want to add, Bog, before we watch?
Oh, no, nothing. Well, yeah, that was the intent, like that push and pull. You can recover, but also recovering doesn't matter too much if you can't, like, cash out on that and actually pull through. It was like me trying to get as close as possible to a health bar in the shmup without actually using a health bar.
That does feel like that, yeah. And I was very surprised. What about with the bomb cap? Because Garegga, despite having the rank, the bomb cap, you gotta really go a long way before you cap that crap out. But your bomb cap's actually a bit low. Was that also to do with kind of feeding into a health bar type of thing?
It was even lower. It used to be a lot lower. I think you could only carry like one or two bombs. I made it so that you can't like stockpile them either. So there's kind of like that recovery, and also to encourage the player to use them. Because otherwise they just don't bomb.
You hoard them.
Otherwise,
you hoard them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, if you're not using bombs, what the fuck are you doing? You're just wasting them. Essentially, you're wasting the fragments. And not only are you wasting them in terms of just survival, you're also not getting extends. So, that was like an attempt to push the player into actually using them.
Awesome. And for this run, I am using my favorite ship, the best ship in the game in terms of design, in my opinion.
The official ship.
The canon ship. Like if there was a manga and there was a manga of Gunvein, this would be the main character. We're talking Type A. Talk to us about Type A, because all these kids, they're playing Type C. They need to be put in their place.
Yeah, Taipei is the ship I basically tested the whole game with and just like balanced everything around. So like the speeds, the power, everything is balanced around Taipei, and then B and C are variations on that. Originally, the game was meant to be like a type of Crimson Clover type of thing, but I want it to be more aggressive and in your face with the lock on itself. So it's kind of like a Xevious type of thing. You're coming close to an enemy, locking on, then backing off. And Taipei, I think, is the purest distillation of that.
Alrighty, perfect. We've set it up. You all ready? Okay, it's time for the commentary for the 1cc Expert Mode Clear, which was performed live on stream. Boghog and I were actually on stream together, so if you want to hear me doing it live and complaining and yelling at him for his game, you can check out the live stream. I'll link it here. Why is this such a dense pattern? What's wrong with you? I curse you.
Bigness.
Bigness. But now we're getting the more refined, reflective commentary on the 1cc. Okay, talk to me about Stage 1. What was your philosophy designing Stage 1? Because I've always said Stage 1 is a lot more important than a lot of devs realize because it sets the tone for the game. And also, if it's boring, I'll hate you. So what was your philosophy behind designing Stage 1?
Exactly. I want a nice quick burst of action and actually a difficult final boss, especially on Expert.
Yeah, that tank is no joke.
Yeah, the tank can, like even if you can once you see it, the tank can just kill you outright. So I just made sure to make a very dense, like a lot of dense spawns, a lot of like extra fragments to pick up. And this is like the early stage where I think I started using the fragments as kind of like boost pads in a racing game. So they guide you through the levels.
I could see that, yeah, because I'm watching myself right now as I play, and you can see that I'm swinging on different sides of the screen to chase after the fragments. And I never really thought about it, but those fragments are kind of telling me where to go more than I realized.
Yeah, exactly. They're like racing game boost pads. You can ignore them, but usually you want to kind of catch them. And I did put
Expert mode. You definitely want them, kids. It's all about the bombs. Oh, one thing I will say, because it's going to matter even early on, is this game has really excellent bomb routing. So if I ever make a tutorial on how to properly bomb route in a shmup, Gunvein is like the perfect test case because bomb routing in this game is so important. It's like everything. So getting those bombs early on is very key, and you hang on to them for the tank. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, the whole bombing thing is like, because NG Dev's audience is more kind of like boomer dad shmup types, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking, how can I merge this, like an old school idea of bombing constantly and bombs being used as an offensive tool with like more bullet hell style, and I just figured, okay, I'm just gonna go all in on the bombing and not only encourage it and reward it, but also just train that bombing reflex in people, hopefully.
Yeah, and one thing we got to talk about with the bombs is this golden fragment, because some people, even now, having played the game and own game, what does the golden fragment do? Why is it there? Why is it gold? Why is it shiny? What's up with it?
Yeah, the golden fragment is it gives you invincibility frames. It drops every I believe 8 fragment drops or something like that. But the ones that spawn on the ground, the fragments on the ground don't count towards that limit. And it gives you iframes when you pick it up. The idea is to just create this kind of like what I call reprioritization mechanics, where you have like a familiar stage and you have it routed for the most part, but not exactly, because the fragment drops will vary a little bit. So I want to create these mechanics where you always have these like situations that force you to rethink your strategy. So you'll be killing enemies, you see a gold fragment drop and you're like, oh, you gotta pick that up immediately. You'll go right for it and dive into like a cloud of bullets and maybe point blank the enemy. There's these little situations that I want to create that add more kind of flavor to the game, even though they don't make it more difficult.
I wonder if the really top level players of the expert mode, the Japanese guy, I wonder if he does the Garegga thing of literally counting. So like in Garegga, you do item counting to know, okay, metal's going to come. Oh, this thing's going to come.
Yeah.
Do you think he does counting for the gold fragments? He's like, okay, there's 8, 2 more, and there's going to be 10.
I believe so, but you know what's funny? He might be counting specifically to avoid them, because early on there was a problem in the game where people would get those iframes and get pissed off because they couldn't self-destruct to get more bombs. So,
right.
So like I saw Zarok streaming and he just got annoyed by or I think his replay, and he just got annoyed by like the fact that he accidentally picked up the gold fragment and couldn't kill himself immediately after. He's like, God damn it, these invincibility frames have got to end.
It's
So I
like
had to
those,
fucking
it's like suicide prevention. You know, it's like those signs they put
Oh,
in
yeah.
front of
Yeah,
like cliffs. It's
exactly.
like, value your life. Someone loves you. That's what these gold
Exactly.
fragments are.
That's the suicide push and pull. You know, like you have a safety net. But yeah, like I had to add a mechanic where if you, I forget what exactly it was, but I think if you double tap some buttons, you just immediately cancel your invincibility frames.
That's funny.
Which other game has you canceling invincibility frames?
I can't think
How
of one.
insane is that?
I can't think of one.
That is crazy. That's like the only thing close you'd probably find is in some kind of obscure fighting game, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Where you want to take hits to gain meter or something crazy like that.
Yeah, something like it's like a Kusoge type of design, you know, at this point. But you know, that's how some scoring stuff eventually become. You know, that's what it develops into.
All right, and here we are fighting the tank boss, the notorious tank boss. My strategy here is, you saw right there, when it spawns in its spawning phase, drop a bomb right on its face to blow those turrets off. Yeah. But you want to hit them all and blow them all off because that makes the pattern a lot easier to dodge. And then what I tend to do is drop down to the bottom left corner and then just try to hang out in there and dodge around things. You really got to watch for that cannon blast. And then when it goes to the next phase, I can raw dodge that, but for safety here, I just go ahead and drop the bomb. And then we go into the final stage of these sort of, how would you describe the final pattern of the boss? Because it reminds me a little bit of like some shmups
like
I've played,
panic.
but I'm not quite sure where that comes from though.
For example, Zero Ranger, even Hibachi actually, because
Hibachi.
Like Doom. Yeah, I wanted the player to panic. I wanted to create like a situation where the player sees the patterns, they're like, oh my god, they think they killed the boss, and they just get surprised by that final attack. And it's a lot scarier. Like it looks a lot scarier than it is. I think.
Yes.
You know, the fast bullets and stuff. But you know, and it's like if you have a bomb, it's pretty free, and you know, it's not that scary even if you don't have a bomb. But you know, it's just that final burst of fear, just to terrify the player a little bit.
Yeah, and my bomb routing for the boss, it started off where I would save a bomb for the final pattern. But what I ended up finding is because there's a little bit more RNG in the second pattern coming out of the first bit, where sometimes it would be pretty easy. Then other times you'd have these crazy overlaps that would be terrifying. So I kind of decided that if it starts to overlap, I'll go ahead and bomb it, like you see in my run here. And if it doesn't overlap, I'll hold on to the bomb for the third phase. So I have a little bit of a multi-dimensional bomb route on many parts of this run, but especially right there in the tank.
Yeah, that's good. That's exactly what I wanted. But also, like with the RNG, I want, because I deliberately made that pattern very, very RNG based. I balance it so that I never feel comfortable dodging it myself. So I always feel kind of stressed out. You know, like when playtesting, I know exactly how it's gonna go, but there's still that RNG, so I always feel a little bit nervous. You know, and that was the goal there.
Alrighty, stage one. That is a really fun stage one, and it's that nice blend where it's just challenging enough that even if you're familiar with the rest of the game, you still have to be on your toes, but it's also something you can use to build up resources and kind of prepare yourself for later in the run. Stage 2, what was your philosophy behind designing stage 2? Because another pivotal stage in shmups can make or break shmup design, I think, the first two stages. So what was your thoughts? How much did you want to rank it up in difficulty? How did you come to that decision?
Stage 2 is split into two chunks, so it's like the first chunk is very it was kind of inspired by Ketsu's stage 4 a little bit, but like a lot more toned down. I wanted to like start adding a little bit more memorization stuff into the game. You'll have like big tanks, you'll have waves of enemies like clearly coming from one side, you know. Just
right, yeah, now that
more.
You say that, I can see that.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit of that Ketsu design. And in the second half, I wanted like a mix of just a lot of bombing and also like the beginning of some more dynamic enemy types. You see that final stretch with the ships, you know, where they fly up from the bottom. That's what I wanted to like introduce some more dynamic elements into the stages themselves.
That's awesome. Now that you mentioned that, I can see a lot of those similarities. Did the mid-boss also inspire you a little bit, the stage 4 mid-boss?
What inspired the mid-boss was actually Crimson Clover's The Cloud stage, was a stage 4. I think it was stage 4.
Yep.
Yeah, the cloud stage's boss, where if you're like milking it, you want to destroy the turrets. You want to go side to side destroying the turrets. And I wanted to capture that, but like as a survival strategy for the mid boss. And that was the main inspiration for
it. It is one of the more challenging mid bosses in the game, where I talked about in my Dodonpachi DOJ review, where you need some nice spikes and like nice little thorns in your level design or in your difficulty curve, and I feel like the stage 2 mid boss is one of those. Speaking of your influence from Crimson Clover to your stage 2 mid boss, it's funny in shmups because you can get like double decker influences, because I'm pretty sure Crimson Clover's stage 4 boss was influenced by Garegga's second to last boss, where it has the respawning arms and you have to blow them up, and it has like different weapon types. It's just funny how these can kind of become like traditions. You know, they build on each other across games. So there's like Garegga DNA from Crimson Clover into Gunvein. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's such a good idea as well, because you know a lot of shmup bosses are they capture the dodging element, but they don't really have any kind of routing element to them. Okay, you route patterns, but you don't like, okay, I'm going to prioritize this enemy right now, I'm going to prioritize this thing. And what those like respawning parts do, they add like a routing element to the boss fights themselves. And such a great idea from Yagawa.
Yes, more shmups should do it.
Love that stuff. Exactly.
If you're a shmup designer, Shmup Dev, a lot of fans of General are, take note, because I had to do that very same thing. We'll see me doing it, and I'll talk about it.
Yeah, I always loved that concept of just like taking a boss apart piece by piece, and it like actually mattering for gameplay instead of just being a scoring thing.
Yeah.
Or just like visual flair. You know, I didn't push it too much in this game, but like this is something I'm trying to go for actively.
Alrighty, continuing stage 2. Yep, now I can see the stage 4 influence from Ketsui. Very much so. Now that you mentioned it, I can see it right here. Oh, extend time. I love the item extends, the way you have the item drop down. This is something that I can't remember what shmup first started doing this. You know, probably not even a shmup I'm aware of, but I really like when shmups contextualize the extends into actual items that drop down.
Yes.
You know, a lot of cave games just have them like appear, but I love when they're actual items that fall down and you have to catch them. I've never missed one in Gunvein, but imagine that would suck.
Oh, not only that. Well, in Gunvein, there's a property to the 1-up item, where the 1-up item, it cancels all bullets as long as it's on screen. So if you keep it on screen, if you like delay how long it stays on screen, it'll keep canceling the bullets. So you can use it defensively a little bit if you route it out.
That's cool.
Yeah. I feel like older shmups did this better, where they had like extends contextualized as items.
Yes,
like a lot of stuff like Judgment, Silver Sword, and Eschatos are influenced by that style of design more so than bullet hell games, and I love that. And Judgment, Silver Sword, I'm guessing you played that enough to know this.
Yeah.
Where if you die and you have an extend on screen, it'll just like zoom into your ship and recover you.
That's really cool.
Revive you.
Imagine if Garegga did that. Cool. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Imagine the crap you could pull if Garegga did allowed that.
Yeah, I mean, Garegga is technical enough already. Like some of the Kamui did. If it had like actual physical 1-up items, that would be even more insane.
And speaking of the mid-boss, here we are. So this is a really fun mid-boss. And what I ended up doing, because you said routing for the parts, that's exactly what I do, where I start on one side, kill it, go to the other side, weaken it while the other side's spawning, then I swing back over, take out the other one, and then they both kind of gang up on me in the end there, and I throw a bomb. That routing in the beginning is key, because you need to save the bombs. At this point, bomb routing is key for this run, so you can't just start throwing them at anything that's scary. You have to save it for the boss. So, that was one of the early instances of, all right, I got to sit down and figure out this bomb route, and the side part routing was a big part of that.
Oh, you started using hypers here.
Yes. So this is the newest innovation sweeping the nation, which is that for my initial runs, up until the week before I got the clear, I was still routing everything based off doing full bombs, because I forgot that the hyper used less bombs, and I was like, the hyper isn't really that much better for safety, so I'll just use full bombs. And so I was routing all of the early stuff with full bombs, later stuff with full bombs. And then I was just talking to you about it, and I can't remember how exactly you kind of casually mentioned that the hyper uses half a bomb stock. I was like, wait, what? And so then I went back and rerouted all of my bombs. And here's the rule I came up with, which is if I just need a little bit of iframes and a little bit of that extra safety, I'll do the hyper, and you'll see me doing that a lot. and a little bit of that extra firepower, I'll use the hyper. And then if I need damage and I need like guaranteed safety, especially on bosses and stuff, then I drop the full bomb. So part of the bomb routing of this game that's very unique. Are any other shmups like this, where you can have like either a full bomb or a half bomb hyper? I can't even think of one, but you know, you made the game. What's the influence on that?
Well, you have partial bombs from Muchi, you know, like Yago games, basically. Battle Garegga.
But Garegga, you can't opt to do a partial bomb in Garegga. Garegga, you have to full bomb.
Yeah, it's more like you have to.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. Yeah, sometimes you do it for revealing fragments, I believe. But in Muchi Pork, it's more of an element because rank control isn't as big of a thing. So you actually do use partial bombs. But the thing that inspired me is Psy Warrior, because Psy Warrior has like a bomb. Yeah, it has a bomb. It has a bomb mechanic. If you press the bomb, if you hold down the bomb button, you get some iframes, and you can use that to like start like a grazing chain, basically.
I love the concept. I love it. Now I wish some of the cave games had something like that, because they have like hyper and bomb, and they even separated hyper and bomb in DFK in a certain mode and all that. But I really like the fact that they're tied to the same resource. So yeah, this is again why if I was making a video on bomb routing, Gunvein would be it, because it has even a dynamic within the bomb stock itself. So you'll see me in most of the stages opting for the hyper, because I routed everything to mostly be done without needing to bomb. But if I start getting scared, or if I start getting out of position, out comes the hyper, basically. And I kind of screw myself over a bit in the run here and there where I hyper a little too much. I was getting a little too excited, but so far so good.
Yeah, so if you're hypering, if you want to like maximize your damage, you should just immediately point blank, because the way it works is you get a massive damage boost at the start of the hyper that falls off over time. So like you can use that initial burst of damage to really do a ton of damage to enemies or bosses, to like quick kill stuff, and then you can back away. So
nice.
So what I'll often do, especially on the roguelike mode, is just like get close to an enemy, hyper for like massive damage, and immediately back away. Sometimes it's even useful for just like safety, not even like iframes, but like just quickly killing enemies.
Yeah, I don't know if I do that too much. I should have, but I didn't quite put that in my brain in terms of routing. But I do know that in a lot of sections with like tons of popcorn and like overlapping enemies, I'll bust out the hyper to just clear them out a little safely. Okay, here it comes again, this last rush. So the key to here in my little playbook is this last rush: do not bomb, do not hyper. You can't. You need these resources, so just suck it up and dodge. That's like my rule book. So if I bomb or hyper here, I will actually sometimes reset the run since it's early enough. So here, look how crazy this is. Oh, I do hyper. Okay, I told you I screwed myself over, so this must be the part.
Exactly.
This is the part. I hypered too early. Then I was like, for my route, because the last pattern here is just a nightmare. So I want to talk about this pattern here. I want to talk about this pattern. 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, so this opening pattern here, I want to talk about, because when you're watching me do the run here, and when you watch replays, you're like, you know, it seems like a average pattern. It's cool. Yeah. There is some kind of mystic, demonic force in this pattern, because I sat down in practice mode and hit it 10 out of 10 times every time. I would never miss dodging this pattern. I get into runs, even up until I got the clear, and about 30% of the time the pattern would clip me. There's something weird about it that you end up getting clipped. It's dynamic enough where it kind of shifts around. It seems static, but it's not as static as it looks. It is a very crazy pattern. So every time I get to it, I start to sweat a little bit. And I underestimated it initially. Initially, I was like, oh, no problem. So then my first batch of runs, I was just getting annihilated by this pattern over and over.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like a needle thread. You really got to squeeze in there.
Yeah.
Really carefully. Yeah, I think what makes it difficult is there's like because you have to misdirect it at a particular rhythm, and it's really easy to kind of break that rhythm and just completely lose it and immediately just get killed.
Yes,
because
exactly.
the pattern's tight.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like when you're practicing, you're almost like passively lulled into that rhythm trance, you know. And then when you're in an actual run, you're worrying, you're thinking about stuff. You're like you just and as a result, you're not like feeling the flow of the pattern. I think that's my theory.
I think you react too fast in a run. You move actually too quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
You go too fast, and then you get pinned.
Exactly. Yeah, it needs to be very like methodical and like flow. You have to flow through it.
All right, now we're in a certain style of pattern that is a Boghog special, at least in Gunvein, which is you love these really like dense line patterns. You love those.
Yes.
And it's actually the type of pattern
yes.
I struggle with the most in shmups, are these dense line patterns. So I actually got better at dodging them because of this game. So I'm really happy with how I was able to pull it off here. Here's one of my bomb routing here, where I always bomb there. But notice my resources here. I bomb a little bit too early, and then I come into the final pattern, and I'm like, oh god, I have to dodge this.
This is a hell pattern. This is like, I can't do this consistently at all. This is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I call it the Battletoads pattern, like the turbo tunnel, you know? Except instead of just being static,
but it feels
memorizable.
Good. It's mean, but it feels good. It's one of those patterns.
And it's like, it's not only not memorizable, but also like there's a lot of these stray bullets. They exit the main lane you're on, or like they exit the outer lanes and kind of get inside of your lane and act as noise. So you can't even focus on the walls. You have to like constantly adjust to those tiny little bullets flying from the sides. It is a very nasty pattern, I think.
Well, we're in stage 3 now. The opening section here, this is where I actually thrive. It's interesting how different players prefer different styles of patterns and different styles of levels. Stage 3 and like the later stages, I really feel like I do stronger in some ways, because I like the more like chaotic, overlapping, crazy level design. So this stage I always feel pretty comfortable with. But it is, and there's my first death there. But it is, I was about to say, it is scary though, because you have to be on point with your dodging. You know, it's this game always testing your control over your ship, especially in expert mode. So a really fun stage 3. Now, I believe this stage has a demonic mid-boss. I'll confirm that once it appears on screen and make sure my memory's serving me right. No, this one isn't so bad. This one isn't so bad. Yeah, it's stage 4 that has the demonic mid-boss.
Yeah, though that first pattern he did, I think that one is really tricky visually.
Yes, it is.
How do you feel about that one?
That one, I'll tell you what I do. Some of your patterns, especially some of the later ones, where I've learned that instead of watching the bullet I'm trying to dodge, I need to watch the surrounding bullets, because you have some patterns where like the bullet movement and bullet animation even is like really funky and hard to read and hard to track. And so I'll try to pick out like more static things in the pattern and watch them. And I'm not even trying to dodge those things. I'm like watching them and like orienting myself around them. So on that pattern there, I don't actually watch the main bullets I'm trying to dodge, because it'll like you said, it's like a change up. It'll mess up your brain. So I'll watch the actually static bullets and I'll just orient myself to them and dodge with them. A great pattern like this, and some of your later patterns, I don't know if this was inspiration, but the final attack of Ketsui stage 3 boss. So its final pattern, where if you try to like read that pattern and dodge it, you're gonna die. But all you do is you just watch the wall and you just kind of sit next to the wall. So you just orient yourself to something you're not dodging.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing that makes it more tricky is that, like, the first bullets fly in, so, like, your brain thinks, oh, this is gonna be the main challenge. But then they stop, and then other bullets overtake them. So you're like, wait, now I'm gonna focus on this. But then the bullets speed up. The initial bullets speed up, and you're like, oh. And now your brain doesn't know what to focus on.
You know what it is, almost? This is gonna sound kind of out there, but it's almost like when you're doing a combo in a fighting game, where if you try to do an entire combo, like an extended combo, and do it all in one mental sequence where you're like, oh, up in this and that and this, you're always going to get screwed up. So what you do is you break the combo down into mini combos with links. And I feel like some of your patterns, like that one, that's exactly what you do. You like stage 1 of the dodge. Then you have like, you complete stage 1 and then you advance to stage 2 of the dodge. And then you do stage 2 of the dodge. Then, okay, now back to stage 3, so that you can account for some of the variations in the pattern behavior. Yeah, here it is. Speaking of, there's that pattern right there. Breaking it up into stages. And then on this pattern here, I'm always a little bit divided on how I want to approach it. And so run to run, it's kind of a hot mess, because sometimes I try to stay on one side of the pattern and just speed kill one side. And then other times I try to switch on and off. That one I did more of a switch on and off. After the mid-boss, though, what I really like about Gunvein that separates it a little bit, even from cave games, it feels like, is I like how compressed your waves and mid-bosses are. Usually what happens is after you beat a mid-boss in a shmup, there's kind of like a few seconds there to go back to the middle, drink your coffee and all that. I really like how compressed, though, Gunvein is, where you kill the mid-boss, and then you have to remember, like, a second after the mid-boss dies, okay, I have to get back on route, and, like, the game goes. I really like that. I like how the game piles. It doesn't use the mid-bosses as, like, dividers in the level. Instead, they're just this ultra enemy that still connects back into the main game.
Yeah, that one was really inspired by Psycho games, because Psycho games are very condensed in that way. Like Dragon plays like what, 12 minutes, 11 minutes per loop.
Yes,
and it's just like wave after wave after wave. I love that feeling, but you know, I do feel like it's very divisive among players, because some players feel like it has the danger of kind of homogenizing a lot of the waves, and I mean I like that. I like that it's just non-stop assault of enemies and
I like
and
that
stuff.
too. That's a taste we both share. And I know that there are other players that are like, but I like it. I agree. I like how condensed it is.
It's like, give me a break. Just give me let me chill out. It's like the whole, Souls thing where you can't continue right next to a boss fight. You got to like go through like a run back type of thing.
Yes, yeah.
Where some players actually like that because it gives like the bosses some gravitas. Like you have a waiting period, which actually did one. I did that for the stage 3 boss and the final boss because I felt like those are like the apexes of the run, the two emotional peaks. So I gave them a little bit of an intro, unlike the other bosses, which are a lot quicker.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that, but I'm sure I noticed it in my hands, but not in my brain. Yeah, and stage 3 boss, here it comes. Before we even resume playing, let's talk a little bit about stage 3 boss. So this is every good shmup needs the run killer. It needs the massive reset point. And I think that appearing in stage 3 is always like a good idea because it's that nice dividing point where if you clear through it, this back half of your run feels more viable. And if you kind of limp through it, you're like holding on for dear life for the rest of the run. So stage 3 boss is one of the more challenging bosses in the game. I grinded this sucker probably for like a good 10 hours on my Switch or on my Steam Deck.
Boss.
The thing is
hate this boss.
The thing about this boss, what makes it great design is when you first play it, you will hate it because it does a lot of stuff that you're like, what is happening here? But once you practice the boss and learn what it wants to do, it's really, really fun because it is one of the bosses where its waves actually will intersect with each other in really cool ways.
Yes.
Something that's unusual in boss fights and shmups is that you actually route the waves into each other. So usually what happens, even like in most cave shmups, is wave 1 of the boss or whatever you call it, phase 1 of the boss, and then it goes into phase 2, fight phase 2, and it goes into phase 3. This boss's phases will bleed into each other. So it's not just about killing him during phase 1. It's like killing him during phase 1 at the right moment so that when you can go into phase 2 more cleanly. I don't know how well I pull it off in the run. I think pretty solid, but I've gotten pretty good at this one. Okay, boss appears. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hyper and we're going to hang tight. What I'm watching for in these patterns is when he drops the grenades, you're going to get 2 different types of grenades. This is what screws up when you play the boss for the first time. You think it's one type. There's actually 2. There's one type of grenade that is dense but has wider lanes. And then a second type of grenade that isn't as dense, but it has narrower lanes. And that's the one that's really scary. And you have to like weave into the lanes. And so if things are going well, you can go through it no matter what type. But what often can happen is if you set yourself off just not correctly, you're going to have a really tough dodge based off of what type of grenade comes out. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the rhythm and then I'm just watching with my hand right above the hyper button. And like, if I get a funky grenade, I'm just going to hyper. So that's what I'm doing. I don't know if I end up doing it. Let's see. I think I got nervous, and I don't think that was even necessary that I hyper, but I did it anyway. I think I kind of screwed myself a little bit, hypering a little bit more than I needed to. What would you even call the attack of this pattern? It's like a bomb, but it's not a bomb. What the hell is this thing?
Where did it come from? I think it came from Yeast or something. I don't remember exactly. But basically, I wanted this fight to feel a bit, like Virgil, like one of those character action game or like beat 'em up bosses where he's using bombs like you are, but and you have to kind of react to his bombs.
Yeah.
But instead of them just occupying space, I want it to be like more dynamic. And yeah, like you said, you have to route the bombs into each other a little bit, and that was deliberate. And it's not that the grenades, like the bombs, have two different patterns. It's that I scale the speed of the bombs with where they are on the screen.
Yeah.
Every position on the screen has different speeds. So what you end up having is just like, if it's like in the middle, at the bottom in the middle, it'll be a really slow pattern, so you can kind of go around. If it's going to be next to the top, you'll have to dodge in between usually.
Yeah, it's a really fun pattern. I said how this boss is like the run breaker, and this is like the breaker of the breaker. This pattern is the breaker of whether or not you do the boss well.
That was one of the good things about like just having this kind of resource system, like a health bar and like a resource bar. I could kind of get away with these more random patterns,
Yes.
in a game where you have like a single bomb and livestock. If you get screwed by RNG early on, it's like, oh shit, it's over. But in this kind of game, it's like I can kind of fudge it a little bit. I don't have to make sure that everything's like really consistent. I can make it so that you can recognize the danger, bomb, and not completely lose your run immediately.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying about like what makes this run really fun is you always have a chance and you're always in danger at the same time. You're never safe, but you're never doomed.
Yeah, and like from a designer's perspective, it just kind of like calmed me, like gave me the permission to use more RNG and like these kinds of patterns. Because otherwise, yeah, it gets scary. You're like designing a pattern and you're not quite sure if it's consistent enough for you to be comfortable. So you got to have like some kind of safety net in case, the player gets a little bit too harsh of RNG.
Yeah.
And if you have a resource system where you can recover, or where you can like react at the last second and spend a resource, that kind of gives a nice safety net.
Okay, so far I'm using a little bit more resources than I want to, and now we're coming into this phase here. Not so bad to dodge on paper, but when you get nervous, all of a sudden your eyes start spinning in your head and you're like, I can't read this. But I did okay there. Okay, so this is really fun. I talked about how phases lead into each other. There's a big example there where you actually want to end his health so that when he brings out the turrets, you're in the correct spot, and which was that bottom left area there. Okay, this pattern here is really fun. I get nervous and bombed. I wanted to slap myself in the face because even though I got the bomb and it protected me, I really wanted the bomb for this pattern here, this final attack. What is happening? I have my strategy for how I do this attack, but it's based off of like, this can't be what Bog wants me to do. But before I reveal my strategy, what is happening with this attack? What were you wanting the player to do here?
I just wanted to give, how in Ketsu the Cinderella final has this like rhythm to it, and I was thinking, okay, what if I do that, but like the rhythm is always changing, like there's no stable point in the rhythm. So like the way the rotation works, you can never feel comfortable. You never develop a rhythm. The game always kind of breaks the rhythm and you have to readjust on the fly. So there's no point of the pattern where you can be like, oh, I'm just kind of going with the flow, going with the rotation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it messes with you. That's exactly what I wanted. So it's like it's a very difficult pattern, and I just expected players to kind of like bomb it for the most part. Like the really hardcore players to try dodging this properly, because it messes with you and is designed to mess with you.
Yeah, so my strategy is to throw a bomb at it, but I don't have a bomb.
Yeah.
So I had to come up with a backup strategy for how to deal with this pattern, and I am not talented enough to reliably react to the changes in rotation speed, while concentrated. So I came up with this bootleg way to deal with it, which does work, but it's funky as hell. Which is what I'll do is I'll fly unfocused and I'll follow along with the edge there. When I'm unfocused, I am fast enough to react to the shifts in speed. But since it's unfocused, that means your hand control needs to be really on point, and it takes longer to kill because you're not doing as much damage. So we'll see if I'm able to pull it off. I'm probably not, though I have in a few runs before. Okay. And let's see if I can pull it off. I don't remember if I do in the run or not. But no, I don't. Damn it. See, that was the strat. Now I have a bomb. I think I'll throw a bomb, right? Yeah, I'm like, I better. Okay, throwing a bomb's fine there after the death. So we're not doing too bad routing-wise. Now, I wanted to clear that with 3 extends, or 3, full lives, because then I could get the shield. But I've never been able to get the shield outside of practice runs. Like in a legit run, I've never been able to do it. So here we go into stage 4. This is when the game decides to go demon mode. The opening of
this
Stage 4 reminds me a lot of the opening of Stage 5 in DOJ, where you just need to attack. Don't even take 1 second. Just attack the top of the screen the second the stage begins. You love these dense line. You love that. You love it.
Yeah,
this is where you become evil.
Yeah, not only is it lines, but it's like bendy lines.
Yeah, you love that, don't you?
Your worst nightmare. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my god. I remember practicing this stage a lot. This was the stage. Well, no, 4 and 5 I grinded a lot. The stages. I love these giant turrets. They definitely remind me of the Crimson Clover Stage 5 turrets. Definitely. Especially because they give you cancels and everything. I love those. Here we go. You know, I've actually been killed a few times by your stupid meteorites falling down.
Yeah, the visibility is a little bit iffy there, but you know.
Whatever. We'll accept it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, this is, I believe, your most demonic mid-boss, in my opinion. This mid-boss is evil. And the thing about it is, when you're sitting in practice mode, like many of your bosses, I'm like, yeah, I got this. Like, I get the feel. Because you have to really react to what it's doing. This one is very reaction-based. But as much as I get pretty good at that, reading it visually is so funky. And because you have to go through so many quick stages of dodging, yeah, it's really fun, but very challenging and scary. And I won't be surprised if I just launch bombs at it or something.
Yeah, this is literally like me trying to do kind of a more action design where, you know, you see an attack, this is Punch-Out. This is like Shmup Punch-Out.
Yes,
he has those two side because he has those 2 side turrets, you know, and like depending on where he moves them, there's only, I believe, 3 or 4 configurations of the pattern. 3 or 4 possible configurations. So you can't come up with like a solid like spots to sit in because, you know, there's not going to be too much randomization, but because of how he moves and how quickly and overlapping they are, you do not have the time to like set up especially on expert. On intense, I think it's a lot more reasonable, but on expert, he finishes one pattern, you barely have enough time to like reset to neutral. You immediately have to like, oh, what is he doing? And it might be helpful to just look at the turrets themselves instead of like the pattern, at least initially.
That's what I would say. If you were a Jamer's tier where you could like look at the corner of the screen and still dodge what's happening at the bottom of the screen. And I tried to do that. But what I ended up having to do is I had to make my primary dodge strats like, oh, if this formation do this, if this formation do that. But like you're saying, because the formations will start to overlap, I had to make secondary dodge strats of like, okay, it's this formation into this formation and you're out of position. What do you do? Yeah. And if it's not bomb. And then if you don't have one, be prepared to swing wildly into crazy patterns. So,
yeah, you know what I'm noticing? My favorite bosses, the ones I designed, are the most evil. So like the stage 1 boss, the stage 3 boss, this mid boss, the final stages mid boss, and the final boss are like the most dreaded bosses, and they're the ones that I'm happiest with in the game.
Even though they're evil, they're still really fun to play against.
Yeah, it's like if Mike Tyson punches you in Punch-Out, but bullets come out of his fist.
Yeah, now that's a game.
And you still have to deal with them.
Now that's a game right there.
And then like
do
the
that
bullets fly around, you have to
do that blindfolded, GDQ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, here we are. These are the patterns I was talking about. I'm getting pretty good overlaps here. Nothing too crazy. And then right there, a hyper, not so bad.
Yes.
Hyper's okay. Hyper's okay. Can I? Oh, a bomb. Not what we wanted, but okay. Oh,
it's like
here's this pattern that got me. That clutter pattern at the end, surprisingly hard. Not because like in isolation it's not so bad. Like if you know, okay, just go to the right and kind of tap dodge to the left. But because it overlaps with the pattern before it, what can happen is that pattern comes out before you're ready, and you're like already out of position, and then it gets really tight. Oh man, I love this pattern
love the
here.
Pattern overlap.
These back patterns here, where you get the big waves. And then those like back walls of thick bullets. I love that because when you first see it, you're like terrified. And then you realize that back wall of bullets is like kind of slow. So you can route a secondary dodge around it. This is like a almost mini boss, but it isn't. And then here we go into the turret guns. This is where you need to start memoing after these little suckers. The turret guns where if you let them appear on screen for more than a second, you're dead. You know, like just kill them. You have to know where they're going to appear. Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong stage. Never mind. All right, here we go into these big guns again.
The easy turrets.
Yeah, the easy turrets. I was thinking of the later turrets. These big guns, it's like a little bit of Crimson Clover, a little bit of Mushi Masama. you stick to underneath their pattern, and then you concentrate on them because you'll get a cancel. All right, stage 4 boss.
Oh, yes.
Now, stage 4 boss, it's this weird combination of some of its patterns, even on expert, are easy, and then the other half are like demonic hell spawn. So you get this really weird dynamic where you begin the boss, you're like, oh, I think Bog kind of forgot to work on this boss. It's not so bad. And then the pattern after that, it's like hell on earth. So you're like, oh, okay. It's this weird change up of it. And this is a boss that gave me a lot of trouble. I think I do like a really solid job in this run. But so this first pattern here, we'll start in a second here. This first pattern here is like easy. And then the one after that is nightmarish.
Yes.
So here we go.
Yeah, because the big thing I focused on is just like kind of creating variety of patterns. So a lot of the time you won't have that consistency, when you're focusing on like the mid boss of this stage or stage 3 boss or the final boss. It doesn't have many parts. It's just like a big block of metal. So I tried to focus on a lot of varied patterns that you have to dodge because he doesn't have any other like special gimmicks. So as a result, you get that kind of like zigzagging difficulty through the patterns because some are really easy, even though like and some are just you'll see.
Okay, so like I said, these first pattern here, easy.
Sure.
Just watch for the middles and stay in the middles. It's very easy. And then here comes this sucker. So this pattern, I remember, I think in the live commentary, I'm like, why? So this pattern, it's like this weird fence where you can you're tempted to either go in the middle or go around the side. But the weird thing is that like,
in the middle.
it like, depending on the way it laps, sometimes you go in the middle. But if you go in the middle from the beginning, you'll get annihilated. So then you have to like go around the sides. But if you try to go around the side too much, you'll get walled. It's this crazy lining and manipulation you have to do on it. But setting that up is quite tricky. And so I'm like, I'm just going to bomb this. But you even have to route the bomb. So even though I'm bombing it, I have to route it. So what I do is I kind of wait a second, wait for it to kind of trap me, and then I bomb, and then I swing all the way right. And I pull hard to the right to push that pattern as right as possible. And then I'll squeeze out of it at the end. But this is one of those patterns that even with the bomb, you have to route what you do after the bomb finishes. Because you can't just bomb it and call it a day. There's still more pattern to dodge after that.
Yeah, this pattern is rough. And I think it's another example of what I did with the stage 3 boss's final pattern. Where it's like, there's a rhythm to it, but I always disrupt it. So like the idea is just like, there's like that gap in the middle, because I know sometimes you won't be able to macro dodge it. Sometimes you'll have to go through the middle, and I try to balance the RNG so like you're always switching between macro and micro dodging on the fly, so you can't quite settle on any kind of rhythm. It's less confusing than the stage 3 boss's final, but still like it'll get you all the time, and it's very
just
nasty.
When you think you have it routed, you don't. So bombing, like I said, pull it right, and then now we can macro to the left because I pulled it all the way right. And then this pattern here, it's very RNG based, because if you get like more chill top spawns of the cyclones, not a problem at all. But if they get low, hell forbid. Now this pattern here, the maze pattern, this one's, I ended up just bombing. This was one of those ones where it's more visually difficult than it is like technically difficult, like dodging it technically. Anyway, on the maze pattern, what I ended up doing is I ended up bombing that one there, but there are times where I can get through it. It's just keeping your eyes from not getting too confused and keeping your hands steady. But after that, we get the drunken ninja. I don't know what to call this pattern. I, to this day, cannot read it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have to bomb route it. I have no other way to deal with this pattern. So what I do is I just wait for it to get dicey, and then I bomb, and then I go to the bottom corner, and I just hold, and then I just try to like Touhou through it. This is where your Touhou skills come in handy. You just get to the bottom left, you just hold, and you just wiggle your way out. That's all I could do.
And you pray.
Yeah, I couldn't read it overall. Like, I could not. I'm sure a really good player could just read it. I don't know what hocus pocus you're doing on it. I cannot read it. So what you have to do...
explain you exactly what.
Okay, explain. How do you read... What? How?
Well, I can't explain how... Well, maybe I can explain how to read it, but the main thing that makes it really difficult to read and makes it a nightmare is that the needle bullets, they're not their trajectory is rotating, but their sprite isn't. So like it messes with your eyes because you expect them to like go in a different direction that they end up going. And that's the main thing that makes it like nightmarishly difficult. The other part is just like the rotation is kind of tricky. So you have to think of it like a grid with cells.
Oh my god!
Like the spiky bullets create like a grid with different cells, and then those like circular bullets, they block out certain cells, and you have to sometimes like hop between cells when they get blocked off. Like even Zarok, I believe, or maybe Jamers. Well, one of those guys was like trying to figure out. I was like, oh my god, what is this? So it's not. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky pattern to read.
All right, here I go. Here comes the wiggle. Can I do it?
Look at him go.
I'm going. I'm wiggling. Yes, I wiggle through.
Oh my god.
And I remember saying in the commentary, if I die to these stupid snake patterns, that's what I call them, I'm gonna shoot myself. Because I get through all that, and the snake pattern gets me.
The bullets.
I got through though.
The tiny bullets.
I got through those
really
snake
scary.
patterns. Yeah, that got scary. So I just pulled myself right, and I'm just like, don't hit me, don't hit me. But after I got that extend, I popped off so hard. You can hear me in the live commentary just popping off after I get the extend. And then right now, so the opening of stage 5, I'm really solid at. But then I get in my head, I'm like, oh, I could actually clear this. And then there's this voice inside my head. It's like, you're going to blow it. You're going to blow it right here. You're going to die 4 times in a row. So I remember as I'm live commentating, I'm like, don't die. Don't die. Hold it together. Hold it together. Because the opening of stage 5, I love the way you design it because it's not visually that complicated, but it's like nerve check. It's like nerve check because the thickness of those patterns, it's not hard to read them, but when you're nervous, you can easily slide into them. So it's like a quick nerve check. How are your hands? Are they solid? Are they steady? Are you getting wiggly? I was wiggly, but I was wiggling just enough to stay alive. I wasn't so wiggly I ran into him. All right, so here we go. A smart use of a hyper there. Now we get into the exploding lanterns, or whatever the heck these things are. I really like this section here, the exploding lantern section.
Yeah, some cancels.
Now is this technically a mid-boss? Yeah, it's a mid-boss.
Yeah, this is a mid-boss.
Yes, okay, here it is. Okay. This one here is not so bad except the crouching tiger hidden dragon pattern. Let's see if it's coming up here. We're almost there. This one. Okay, so this pattern is the one I was talking about where it's not that hard to dodge, but it's really hard to read because there's some funkiness going on with the bullets. And it's very scary because you think you have the pattern read, and then it just shifts on you. So what I ended up doing to dodge the pattern, and I think this is good advice, is there's a certain section of the pattern that remains static. Just orient yourself to that section and like stay close to it, and predetermined where that goes. And then you watch the other side of your ship, and you react to the jank randomness. So that's what I end up doing, and I think I am able to pull it off. Any comments on this this bully of a pattern?
I'm really proud of this pattern because it's like, yeah, it seems simple, like it seems visually even simple, but like the bullets get offset a little bit by their angle gets offset very, very slightly, and the boss itself of course moves, so you get that really interesting and varied bend to them. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it gets really nasty, and when you overlap that with those wall bullets, you can get some absolutely nightmarish combos that they just sneak up on you. It's again like a pattern that I balanced, so I never felt comfortable with it. Like I knew what it, because it's simple to read. It's not like you understand the gist of it pretty quickly, but like the nuances take a while to learn, and it's very hard to get comfortable with them.
Exactly, and I think it's one of those great patterns that teach players or test players, at this point experts, so now you're testing rather than teaching, that you need to not only react to threats, but you need to also use space that is like neutral space to orient yourself. There's a lot of patterns in shmups where you don't dodge the bullets, you dodge the gaps in the bullets. It's hard to exactly describe, but like this is one of those where you use the negative space to guide you. So here we go. This one's really fun.
Hypnotic snake.
Yeah, and then we got to go through the maze.
Yeah, the maze is. I'm really happy with that maze.
Yeah, you love those mazes, don't you? You love them.
Yeah, because it's so like. Because it's so insanely intimidating, but you get into like a rhythm with it, and it's not too bad, but it has a lot of RNG still, so you'll never feel comfortable either.
Now
That's
this
like my
is
ideal
the
pattern
turret
right
section right here. This
Oh,
is the
yeah,
turret
hello.
section. Here it comes.
Yes.
Now these you need to speed kill. I kind of a little bit off route, but I was able to pull myself back on route. If you don't speed kill these turrets, it's over. Because they're gonna just blanket you in bullets. So yeah, that's really fun. Now we come to the lantern section. The lantern section. This is very mushy, where you weave your way through these really dense sections of bullets, but you can't nullify everything. So instead, what you do is you concentrate on the lanterns to get the cancels, and then during the cancel, you blow stuff up. Yes. And I'm hanging in there because I need to save resources for this boss and for this stage. So now in the route, I'm just swinging.
You know what this section is, by the way? You know what this section is? This is like a metal slug section.
Yes, it is with the respawning. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's like I'm thinking like metal slug aliens and those kind of screens with aliens dropping in. I'm like, why don't I do something like that?
Yeah, and we don't see that too much in Shmups. Like a screen pause with respawning enemies. That's a little bit unusual, so I like that.
And I made sure that you can't immediately kill them. There's a tiny bit, like they slip out a little bit now to readjust.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not quite static.
That's a pattern that really tests your ability to go through focus to unfocus, focus to unfocused.
Yeah.
Keep that precise. Now I'm hypering. This was a preemptive hyper, which I'm very proud of, because I knew, okay, if I hyper now, I'm going to be able to speed kill stuff a little bit easier. These guys. And then, yeah.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, reaction hyper there. Still, we're doing okay. I'm pretty sure I can grab a bomb refill. So I remember...
Oh, I think you can get 2 bombs here.
Yeah, so I think I can get back on bomb route for the most part. So I remember thinking, oh, it's viable. This run's viable. And now I got really scared. So here we go. Don't blow it. Bomb. Hit everything. It's very key. Oh, and I got the extend. I was so happy with that. It's very key really you hit the center of the sucker with that bomb. It's mega important.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're going to get really trollness on the patterns. So I have tried 1,000 different routing variations of it. And then I found one that is so simple that it almost feels stupid that I didn't see it before, which is what I do is I park at the bottom of the screen. And again, this is something that if you really think about it, it's obvious, but if you're just trying to play the game, it's not going to occur to you, which is that pattern, what it wants you to do, that set of patterns, it wants you to hold completely still. So what I'll do is I'll go right at the bottom and do not move. And then whenever something comes, you only move just enough to get around it. Like you don't, it's like, it's almost like grazing, where because the pattern keeps shifting based off of where you go, if you like go a little bit more than you need to, then you get locked in even tighter. So it's like quicksand. So if you just sit at the bottom and just tap, 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 so gently, so carefully, that's the most consistent way I've been able to deal with that. Otherwise, it just gets into madness. Everything overlaps.
Yeah, do you remember?
Collapse, you get locked in.
Yeah, do you remember what happens when you don't bomb the first?
Yes.
The beginning.
If you don't bomb, you've got extra turrets shooting at you. It's over.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that with Type B, by the way. With Type B, you can't immediately destroy both the turrets. And it gets really rough. Yeah, if you don't bomb the center, he'll jump to the left or right.
Yes,
and that'll just not only will that prevent like your bomb from doing damage, it'll also distort the patterns, and you get like a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, you want to hit in the center, you want to go down low, and then just like I said, just tap it in, like Happy Gilmore, tap it in. This pattern here, not too hard to dodge, but it's scary because the way it opens and curtains, if you misread it, it'll just open into you and nail you. Now the ultimate maze pattern bomb. I don't know what Bog was thinking with that, so just bomb it. So this pattern here has a safe spot. The back, I canceled it because I was so sick, but there's a safe spot there. You just need to be really bold. You know, there's like the Yagawa scale of shmup design, and like certain things Yagawa does in Battle Garegga, it's like, oh, that's a high in the Yagawa scale. I would like to now introduce the Boghog scale of shmup design. And in this game, this is the 11 out of 10 Boghog pattern. Like, this is something you would only get in your games, where he's got this, like, gun attack, and then he, like, chases you around, and then he has, like, a secondary attack. It feels like like a character action game. It's very rare for the boss sprite to literally, like, chase you. So And it's got like a little bit of inertia on it. This pattern is signature. And it's really obnoxious and evil, but it's also really fun. So the strategy is you want to pull the guy super wide at the start, and then you pull him into the corner and like shove him into the corner, because it really helps nullify some of these crazy overlaps. I don't know how well I do it in this run, but some runs I just nail it. So that's the strategy I'm doing here. I went wide, and now I'm going to start shoving his ass into the corner.
The thing I say about this pattern is you gotta like dodge aggressively. You gotta dodge into the pattern, and also like aggressively manipulate where he's going for the next pattern. It's very like, because I remember I was watching you early on playing this, and you kind of tried to hang back and dodge it like a shmup, you know?
Yes.
And you were getting annihilated.
But then,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't do that. You have to like preemptively like rush into the bullets.
Yes.
And then another thing is like, as you're focused on like the rotating balls, he just starts shooting
you with this line shots. Yeah.
Yeah, this whole series of like patterns during this phase are probably my favorite patterns of the game. So in future games, that's probably gonna be something that I'll explore more. This nightmare.
Well, this boss has really grown on me. It's probably my favorite boss in the game. The one before the TLB, the stage 5 boss, and it just feels so good when you like no miss it or like one bomb it or something. It just feels so right. So here we go. I'm pretty clutch in the run, so let's see if I do it. My luck, I get clipped here. Come on, jam him in the corner. Okay, I'm going around.
Oh, that was sick.
Yeah, I'm just scared. I'm not doing any of my strategies.
Oh,
no strategies.
Oh my God.
Okay, there we go. I jammed him in the corner there, but then I get off route and then I get clipped. See? I was too nervous. Okay, here we go. I remember this pattern here. I'm actively yelling at you as I'm dodging this pattern in the live replay. I'm like, you evil bastard. This pattern is a reaction check. This one isn't super hard to read necessarily, but because it has so many, this is Ketsui. We talked about some of your patterns are Touhou, some of your Ketsui. That's a Ketsui pattern. And then we're coming into the TLB. Here with the TLB, this isn't so hard. It's just, can your hands do it?
Yeah.
It's just these very tight squeezes. It's not hard to read, but you got to do it. So the one where it shoots and it has that kind of rotating upward, downward thing.
That's a Gwange
type of thing. Yeah, I just move forward. Okay, because if you clear the first bit of it, moving forward, you'll be clear. But you have to react, and I just don't, so I just ram right into the bullet. But if you move forward and your hands are steady, you can swing around it and get through it. Don't try to go back. If you go back, you're getting blitzed. It's not safe to go back. So you move forward.
Yeah, unless you get a really lucky angle.
Yeah, unless you get a good angle. But the most consistent way is you move forward. I just headbutted into a bullet, but the idea works. The execution wasn't there, but the idea worked. All right, okay, here we're coming into the back section here. I sat and practiced this bit here in that mission mode for hours. So let's see if my practice paid off. All right, here it comes. Here it comes, the final attack. I throw the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
And then here comes the final attack. Now, I practiced this for hours. This is a really fun pattern. And the way it is, it's very active. So you need to just constantly be pushing around the walls. And then you need to pause and swing. So you go around the wall, pause, swing. Go around the wall, pause, swing. I survived that for a pretty good long time. Bomb, bomb, bomb.
Yes.
And you see me like just speed balling. the lock on just
You're like nervously locking on.
Oh, yeah. And there it is, the clear. I popped off super hard. I was so happy. I was also really happy that I didn't blow it, because that could have easily been a run that cleared, and that could have easily been a run. The extend falls because you're a troll bastard, by the way. The fact that extend falls at the end every time is so troll. And then we go the glowing once you see expert clear. Does the glow only exist for the expert clear? Only the expert players get that?
No, it's just the one CC, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping the expert player. That was expert exclusive.
I should go back and patch in like a super glow.
Yeah, because there's no expert achievement, but that was not
exactly.
That was not by consensual agreement with Boghog, but
yeah.
But man, I would love to see the expert achievement. How much it would, how many people it has. Okay, so that's enough with my replay. Really fun clear, really fun time. Any closing thoughts that you want the people of the world to know about the expert mode of this game or Gunvein generally?
The idea is just to create like a kind of a difficult kind of like a challenging mode that doesn't like it should build on the skills you've got in Intense really smoothly, but also just like throw a lot of really awkward, difficult to deal with the RNG patterns in there, you know. So like ideally I want it to be like tense the entire time, even if when you get a good at a stage or a boss, so that you always like it gets you to sweat a little bit.
In your mind, is there that little bit of extra happiness when you see someone get the expert clear as opposed to the intense clear? Because like the expert, you know, you have to get a little bit more intimate with the game to get the expert clear. You know, it's like you got to like go on a date and hold hands for your intense, but like experts, like, you know, you're moving in with each other. There's that maybe we're getting engaged, maybe we're getting married. You know, you have to get a bit more intimate with the game, which you end up connecting with it a lot more, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also a little bit, you know, it's like you said, you're moving in, but it's also a little bit scary because you move in,
Yes.
but then you have to like experience each other's habits and like realize,
oh my God,
you know, living
this
together
pattern here
isn't
makes
as
no
great.
sense.
Yes, you know, it's like you gotta handle each other at your best and your worst now. It's like, you know, it's scary for me as a developer because, you know, a lot of, for example, that pattern during the final boss, there's that like final ultimate maze pattern I made. I still have no idea if that pattern is fair. I legitimately do not know. Like, I have no clue. I'm like, you know, fair enough.
You know, Hibachi pulls that, so you can do it. You know, like Hibachi has patterns that like, Cave's like, just bomb. You know, so
it's I'm like, you know, the player has enough bombs. You know, everything else is fair, and you know that's scary for a developer. Like when developing a difficult challenge, it's at once really really nice, and also just gets a little bit horrifying because, you know, the players are like seeing your dirty underwear laying around in your fucking room, and you're like, Yeah, so, you know, that's
you
like
can't
the
accept me at my
double-edged
worst,
sword.
you can't accept me at my best, or whatever the saying is.
Exactly, yeah. That's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, just the double-edged sword of intimacy right there. With Intense, it's like, yeah, you got the clear, you feel pretty good, you know, like maybe a little bit of frustration here and there, but you're not going to be like shouting my name fucking
yeah. Sending you
at the
emails.
screen.
Sending you emails. What is this?
Yeah, I got bogged. What are you doing? Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome. So if you all haven't bought Gunvein yet, definitely go out and grab it. I like the Steam port. The Switch port is also really solid for the Switch version if you're a Switch player, but for me, it's all about the PC version, so definitely grab that if you haven't. Yeah, thanks so much for joining, Bog. It was really fun to do like an in-depth commentary.
Was really fun to watch.
And hear your thoughts, VH1 behind the music, of making some of these patterns and designing the game.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. This was a great time. See you for the next developer commentary if I can find another developer who's willing to sit down with me and listen to the madness.
Yeah, devs, get in here. Get in here.
Yeah, I got to chase down Danbo next.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on my list, Danbo. I'm coming after you. Alrighty.
Better watch your back, Dambo. Okay.
Adios, everyone.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, Accepting Panda, Admiral Coconut, Anhold, Alexander Pfeiffer, Anthony A, Arcade Hell, Arrow Viper, Auto-Named, Bean Pit, Bo, Ben, Beetle Dames, Boghog, Borky22, Chase Palumbo, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Clara Cliff, Climby Coyote, Coast, Coconut Crab, Color Boy, Cooksand666, Cook Some Soup, Krusty Boy, Des Audio, Dan Chi, Darren Griffin, Dave Hansen, David Crespo, Delta Tango 6, Dick Jones, Dingo, Disco Stas Leia, DJ420 Praise It, Dr. Bosky, Elias Alonso, Evan Serafit, Fabra, FCK, F Deluxe, Friskin, Frames Per Human, Francisco, Full Set, Gameboy Guru, Peace Machine, GPM, Gustavo Sanchez, Hausu, Jake Ryan, Jacob Valenzuela, JLab, JB RPG, Jink Hans, John Kelly, John Longwalker, K Horse, K2, Contain, Praise the Boys, Last of 7, Low Casting, Mieshpa, Blaze, Mars Bar, Matt O'Leary, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minung, Monroe, Nathaniel Davis, Neon Dagger Games, Okla Googles, Ospi, Pedro Perez, Psycho Blizzard, Queen Charlene, Ralph Trujillo, Raul VP, Real Skeen, Ren Haltz Time, Retro Schmupper, Rory Starks, Rolf015, Ryan Bartlett, Scanline City, Shazzy, Shmup Junkie, Sarah Pong, Spiders STG, Steady AI, Steve Fiction, Street Magic, Superfunk, Taze Ryu, The Boot Rex, The Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, Touhou Rizardi, Sugumo, 2YU, Twilight EX, Unikoi Roots, Ursula, Ushimushi, Vic Viper, Beautiful, Wabby Legs, Zachary Patton, and Zeal.